Hello, I come to you today on the eve of the completion of editing this video. Fun stuff. Just before we start anything, I just want to mention two little things. One is that evidently this video contains spoilers for the entirety of Mario Odyssey. If this is a game you care about, don't watch this video if you haven't yet completed it. And number two is that I got a new microphone for this video, and I wouldn't have to mention anything if it weren't for the fact that I had a serious issue when recording. This didn't happen during any of my tests, but on the live production footage, can I call it that? Production footage? Because it wasn't test footage, it was real footage that I was using for the real video. Something went wrong. It was a combination of something I did, but also ambient sounds in my apartment that I wasn't able to noise cancel out, which God knows my phone is probably picking up right now also. But as a result of that, the audio in this video is a little bit weird, especially at the beginning, because also with the new microphone I wasn't really sure what I was doing. So for the first couple of voice clips, I'm like standing like really close to the microphone to record, and it sounds like I'm whispering into it, and it's really weird. But please bear with it. It gets better as the video goes on, and I was able to noise cancel most of it. So a result of this is that throughout the entire video my voice sounds very deep, because the tones I was trying to get rid of were at a very high frequency. So I sound really cool in this video. Don't get too used to it. This won't be a norm or anything, or maybe will. I don't know. Maybe you guys like it. I'll just keep doing that. But that being said, thank you for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy this this video. I know Matt is excited. See you guys soon. Bye. Hello.
It's weak as hell. It had some clever moments, but was sorely lacking in atmosphere and inventiveness. Then you got the two keys.
Hello.
Let's get it started in here.
Well, everyone, it's the holidays. What better time to do something, talk about Super Mario. I played Mario. I got like 250 moons or something, and honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I decided I wanted to say a little song and dance about it, I wouldn't have gone any further. But first, let's take it down a buckle. This, okay, Mario Odyssey, it does one thing, one really important thing that, to be fair, I don't know if it's worth giving credit for, because honestly, Mario was kind of lacking this sort of thing for a long time. So, as you may have heard, Mario Odyssey is a 3D platformer collect-a-thon sort of game. What do? Well, you collect things, but mechanically the gameplay is rooted in two main features. In Mario and games like it, you can move and you can jump. These are the foundations of the gameplay. You want to draw a graph? Yeah, me too. You got the root, and you got your move, and you got jump. Of course, the two are also connected bidirectionally, kind of like my relationship with Hamish Black now, meaning you can do both at once or do one and then the other. You can run and then, get this, you can jump. Or you can jump and then move your body in the air like some sort of regular boy. Now, I moved out recently, thanks for watching, and I really only brought the bare essential stuff I thought I would need to make videos. I thought I was going to complete my Pikmin series that I started all those years ago, and little did I know, I was actually going to do a little bit of thing about Mario. So I don't have Mario Galaxy or Mario Sunshine to show you gameplay of right now, but we do have some Mario 64 to show. And honestly, for what I'm trying to do, it really is one of the, I mean, it's equivalently complex from like the base interaction level. Anyways, all that's to say is that this is what we're going to look at now. So that root of Mario 64, that run, that jump, also that punch, and that duck. These are the only things you can do in the game. You can do them alone, you can also mix and match them, but this is the base Depth 1 level of Mario 64's gameplay for controlling your character. Please note, we're not going to fully get into other gameplay mechanics dependent on the environment, except for two things, but that's okay. So you can duck and move, which makes you crawl. You can duck and jump, which makes you do a backflip. You can duck and punch, which makes you breakdance. You can run and jump, which jumps you while you're moving, and if you do it 3 times in a row, you can get more height. You can run and punch, which makes you do a dive forward. You can jump and punch, which gives a little kick to the sky. But if you run, jump, and punch, you'll do that dive now in mid-air. If you run, duck, and punch, you'll do a sliding kick. If you run, duck, and jump, you can do a long jump. And finally, from any standard form of being mid-air, basically excluding long jumps and dives, you can press duck to halt and do a thick booty bump. There are two others which are environment sensitive, but I count them because they're consistent across all environments and are really more of a mechanic than a system. But there's a wall jump which can be executed by pressing jump again at the immediate moment you collide with a wall from your previous jump. And also you can slide either on your butt or your belly if you did a dive, and this depends on the slope of the ground you're standing on. So correct me if I'm wrong, or don't because it's too late, but this graph represents all of the gameplay mechanics related to a player controlling Mario in Mario 64, excluding some obvious stuff involving movement being related to things like being able to steer while jumping, steer while sliding, bada bing. Also, I don't care about swimming, so shut up. In Mario 64, the gameplay at Depth 1 includes the 4 basic actions: move, jump, punch, crouch. It's in how these interact amongst each other and with the game's other systems that gives the game's gameplay a greater depth. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, like you're new here or something, let me just let you know that when I say depth, I'm not just using some ambiguous throwaway dressing word, especially when I say gameplay depth. I have a formal definition for gameplay depth, which I explained in a video titled Depth of the Wild, the sequel to another video, Breadth of the Wild. Set to be a trilogy, actually. No spoilers, though. So all that's to say is that continuing from here, I'm assuming you know what I say depth is. Depth is not just a word to me, it's a number. It's the depth of the graph. It's the definition of depth from graph theory. Gameplay depth is the depth of something I call a gameplay graph, which is the graph of all mechanical interactions in the game that are non-trivial to a user's point of view, and each represent a different use case. Basically, if you think the depth of a coin flip is 2, get out of here.
Did somebody ask a question?
Yeah, how deep is a coin flip?
Yeah. KK. How deep is a coin flip? 1.
I said 7.
No, it's 1.
1 what?
1. How, like, let's say you were plotting out, like, the state machine of a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, the things of a coin flip. How many, of a single coin flip, what's the depth of that?
1.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
What's the breadth of that?
2.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So how deep is Mario 64's gameplay? What is the maximum depth you can achieve? From this, we can see it's 5. This is the deepest thing you can do in Mario 64. You can run, duck and jump to do a long jump into a wall, then wall jump off the wall, and when in midair, either do a dive attack or a booty blast. It doesn't really matter because you can't transition from either of those states to anything else. So 1, run, 2, duck, 3, jump, 4, wall jump, 5, your last move, and that's it. Now, no, once that's done, the game doesn't turn off or anything. You can continue from that point, do other things. You can run some more, jump some more. Technically, you can keep traversing this graph if you consider a return relationship from all of these actions back to the root. This, though, was an uninterrupted combo, a single string of non-repeating commands that become a single action, a stunt. Now, whether or not this is actually useful at any point in the game, I don't know. I doubt it, though, because the wall jump from the long jump doesn't really give you that much height, and the dive just kind of sets you back to where you started, so it probably actually has no use anywhere. And you know what? All things other than swimming considered, I mean, there's barely anything that really shakes it up more than this. Yeah, there are enemies that you can bounce off of from any mid-air action. There are specific movement abilities that you can get from items, but most of the game relies on these 4 basic abilities and the ways that you can mix and match them. And here's the problem I've had with Mario. For a guy originally named Jumpman, isn't it kind of lame that his jump isn't really special at all? That it isn't more special or complex than movement? Isn't it weird that you can combine jumping with all the same things you can combine moving with? That there isn't like some special thing you can only do while jumping, while midair? Because I mean, jumping is what sets the game apart. A platformer can't really be a platformer without jumping. Shouldn't jumping be more special? I mean, okay, you look at other 3D platformer collectathons, and most of them distinguish themselves from Mario by spicing up the jump. Often, games will have a double jump, like the freaking SpongeBob games. A cooler example is Gex, where a single press of the jump button does your typical hop, but pressing it a second time mid-air, rather than magically propelling you somehow further, causes Gex to wind up his tail and fall to the ground faster in preparation for a following, more powerful, springy jump that feels really, really neat. I'm sure we can all think of many other examples of games that really put a quirk on their jumping mechanic, but without stealing footage from other people, those are the only two I have footage of, aside from this stolen footage from Veegie of Banjo-Kazooie, and this footage I'm stealing from HeavyEyed Mitchell of A Hat in Time. Good thing I had these in stock, huh? Hello?
Let's get it started.
Congratulations! You have been selected by Air Canada to receive a $999 credit towards your next trip. For further details, press 0 now.
No. I want a trip. But you get the point. A lot of games have you move around on a set of planar surfaces, but when they deviate, they tend to do it off the y-axis rather than the x, because there's so much more you can do there. Mario though, this dude, Super Mario, super sad, this guy's got nothing. He's typically always just moved and jumped. I don't know what the heck I'm gonna have on screen here, so I apologize in advance, but in Sunshine, the water gun jetpack thing played a role in allowing for a little more complexity after a jump. But it was also usable from the ground, so who cares? Mario Galaxy, I think, had the best approach. Mario's mechanics were, as usual, totally basic, even removing some stuff, like the diving attacks. I don't have the game on me, but I'm pretty sure it had a maximum depth of 4. You could jump into a wall jump off of it, do your weird spinning attack, and then ground pound. It may be possible that it's 6 if the game allows you to wall jump off a long jump, but from what I recall, that's not possible. Still, across 2 generations of hardware, to only increase the gameplay's depth by 2 in the best case? That's not that impressive. What it did do, though, to add complexity, and the reason why I didn't want to bring up external systems before, is that, well, external systems played much more of a role in Mario Galaxy. Yeah, you could only run and jump, but you had to do it around these planets with Venn diagram-like gravitational fields. You had to traverse these long twisting shapes and curved platforms, plug that into running and jumping, and you've got yourself something pretty remarkable. And I'm skipping a few games now, for a reason I may or may not have. But now in Mario Odyssey, well, we've lost that. The environments aren't as much of a source of complexity anymore. They're just regular ground that you run and jump on, like, well, a regular boy. And I think if they left it like that, it would have been an issue. It would have just been a straight remake of Mario 64. The gameplay would have had no difference. They needed to find some way to add complexity to the game outside of external systems like gravity. They needed to give the player a legit core tool that wasn't just a temporary power-up, wasn't just a special ability with a time limit, but that made the character unique, made him diverge from original 3D Mario in the Y-axis, and also, impressively, in the X-axis. So they gave Mario the whole hat shenanigan, and the rest is ancient history from a couple of months ago. In Super Mario Odyssey, as you may have heard, you have a hat that you can throw at things to possess them, but I don't care about that at all. Well, a little bit, but not much. What I care about is that the hat can serve different purposes whether you're on the ground or the air, and that it deepens the gameplay by a really good amount. With the same restrictions applied as for the gameplay in Mario 64, from my experimentation, this, I believe, is the deepest thing you can do in Mario Odyssey. First, crouch and attack. 2 actions that when combined initiate a roll. From the roll, press jump, which, since crouch is already pressed, performs a long jump. While in the air, press attack to throw the hat. Then comes a lot of inputs in a short amount of time, but you need to press crouch and attack to perform a forward dive, then quickly release and hold the attack button, which, since the hat has been thrown, ensures that it's held in place for a short moment. Next, and this isn't a button input, rather has to do with movement, but aim yourself to bounce off the hat. While in the air, the hat will eventually stop hovering and return to you. The moment it comes back, you can press the jump button again to do a little spin, which keeps you in the air a moment longer. Leading up to the finale, using the additional airtime provided by the mid-air hat catch, collide with a wall and wall jump off of it. Then throw your hat, because, Why the heck not? It keeps you in the air a little bit more. And finally, since all the ways to keep yourself aloft have been exhausted by this point, you have no choice but to fall to the ground. You do have a choice though as to how you'd like to land, either by a dive again or by a ground pound. In this case, I don't think it's fair to consider the dive an action of depth 2 again, since it's already been used in this sequence of actions, so I'm going to count them both as a one-layered action. This combo has a depth of 12. You have to traverse across relationships between mechanics to perform this. Now, yes, some inputs are repeated, which we didn't allow in Mario 64, but Mario Odyssey is a little bit different in that combinations of inputs are how you perform, or giving a command in the middle of another event is how you do some moves. For example, the forward dive, it's not really a button combination that triggers it. You need to be in the process of doing a ground pound for it to work. Mario Odyssey does stuff like this to maximize the player's control options over the game's 3 used buttons. You don't just use those buttons to control Mario, you build combos out of button presses and in-game character states. In other words, it's not just about combining inputs, it's about combining inputs and actions. From a maximum depth of 5 to 12, they've more than doubled the depth of Mario's 3D gameplay between Mario 64 and Odyssey. That's really good. And what's really important to notice is that the majority of that new depth came from moments where Mario's feet were not on the ground. Sure, there are some additions to movement like rolling and spinning, but the majority of the hats mechanics have impacts on and are most useful when you are in the air. Think about it, they didn't just give Mario cool new moves he can do only out of a jump, but they gave him the ability to place and use his own platform in a platforming game. What it feels like is they've given you the ability to be a rogue agent in the level's design, capable of making one small temporary edit per jump in order to get where you want to get. But let's wind it up, wind it back, and take things at a simpler pace. Forget about overall game depth, the maximum depth of any action you can do in these games. From a standstill moment, a single input to kick us off, a jump. What can you do from there? Forget the walls, forget all that junk. What is the depth of a single Mario jump, and how does it change across these games? By the way, in case you couldn't tell, I'm winding up here to introduce the issue I have with Odyssey. If you're a longtime Lamboy, you probably noticed there's a word I haven't brought up yet, so have a little fun keeping that in mind as we move to this example. Start thinking about these games and what I'm talking about. Let's see if we get to the same point, huh? So Mario 64, you jump, pause. What are your options? Considering just falling to the ground a failure state, you can either dive by pressing the punch or flip your bum by pressing duck. The depth of a jump in Mario 64 is 1, using the jump itself as the root of the graph. You can either fall and end the jump or extend it by 1 of 2 additional actions before landing. That's all. Mario Odyssey now. You jump and what can you do? You could pound or pound and dive, which would end the jump, but we're interested in getting as far as we can, so let's consider those failure states. In fact, let's consider anything that doesn't extend our jump a failure. For the same reason, we're also going to ignore the option to just let ourselves fall to the ground, obviously. So our only other option is to throw the hat. Okay, cool. Next, we can do a couple of things, but the only one that lets us continue is the ground pound and attack combo, aka the forward dive. Once in the dive, other movement commands are locked, so the only other options here are to either hold the hat in midair or not. Not doing so is useless, so let's hold it. Then, depending on our aim, we will either bounce off the hat or we won't. If we don't, we'll land, so let's explore bouncing off of it. Propelled further into the air now, we can catch the hat and hover for a second. And from this point, we kind of have no choice but to find a way to land, either by repeating a dive or a ground pound, again, considering either of those a one-layered action. The depth of the jump is 7. Jump, throw, dive, hold, bounce, catch, and pound. That's much better than a meager depth of 1. Mario Odyssey really seems to give you many more options. Is what we would be saying if we didn't know what depth actually was. In discussion of this game, I've heard multiple times and multiple different ways the same sort of thing being said. Mario Odyssey's deep mechanics give you so many options. Yes, the jump is very deep, but options, having a choice, that's breadth. So we know how deep the jump is, but how broad is it? How many options do we really have? Well, if you look really closely, you can see that the entire time we were doing that jump, we weren't really making choices. Our hand was forced relative to our goal of extending the complexity of the jump. There may have been many options at points, but at each step of the stunt, only one didn't lead to immediate failure. That wasn't until the very end of the jump where we were given one choice, one set of two options, who both, no matter what, would lead to the end of the jump anyways. With all other moves exhausted, at the end of a jump in Mario Odyssey, you can either dive or ground pound to land. In Mario 64, after doing a jump, you can either dive or ground pound to land. Mario Odyssey may have extended the maximum possible depth of a jump from 1 to 7, but in both Mario 64 and Odyssey, the deepest jumps you can do in each game both have a breadth of 2, which is not good. Yes, you can pull off one really cool combo, but that's it. Once you start, your hand is forced. You either execute it properly or you fail. Now, of course, the first layer of a jump in Odyssey is much broader. There are less complex jumps which give you more options. From that first point, you can pound, dive, or hat throw. Well, technically no, the breadth is still 2 since a dive can only be done after a pound, but let's just cut the game some slack for a second. What I'm saying though is that once you do the hat throw in midair and you dive into it, you've kind of committed yourself to this complex jump of depth 7 we just described. And your only options are to follow every step of it or break out and fail at whatever point you want. The one example you keep hearing people talk about in Mario Odyssey, even the way they say it, it's like Mario Odyssey is so cool, it gives you so many options. You can throw your hat, dive into it, bounce off, throw it again, dive into a thing, bada bing. It's like, yeah, you can, but that's all you can really do. That's as much as you can do. You can realistically look at the game from the point of view where every jump that isn't exactly this jump is just a failed version of this jump. This jump contains every other jump in the game. Now, yes, once you take the environments into account, it makes things much more interesting. A jump isn't just pure execution, it's about motivation. Why do I want to make this jump? Maybe it's because I want a shortcut across a section of a level during a race. Maybe it's because I want to get as much horizontal distance out of a jump as possible and land somewhere far away. Or maybe I just want to jump on a taxi, bounce off a dude's head, and kill myself. This whole core concept, what feels almost like a theme of there's one best way to do each part of the game, every other approach is trash, kind of permeates throughout the whole experience. It feels great when you discover something new that neither you or King K knew before you absolutely body him on the scoreboard of those Koopa races. And it feels kind of rewarding to find out that there's an onion dude over here that you can use to fight this spooky UFO boss instead of messing around with all the Goomba stuff. But the fact that all of the jumps you do that aren't the one jump you've heard a million people talk about are inferior to that jump, or a subset of its actions, that doing that jump is almost always better than doing whatever jump you're trying to do, that this one jump gives you the maximum height, distance, and, okay, let's be honest, swag and street cred, that fact floating around constantly in your mind, it just kind of kills the game. It did for me, at least. You know how when you're given a hammer, everything looks like a nail? Well, it's even worse when almost everything actually is a nail. When I finished the game, having realized that basically every challenge that didn't involve possessing weird creatures was the same, I declared myself done. I didn't really want to continue. There was no point to. I saw all Mario had to show, and I mean, I had fun, it's just that there was no reason to stick around any longer. And I'm not going to show it, but okay, that ending, let me just say, that's some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. I think this tweet by King K actually kind of summarizes exactly my experience playing the game, and it's a graph, so you know everybody here likes graphs. Hey, maybe I'll find a more fun game to play over here. Oh yeah, look, there's one. Breath of the Wild. Now, I've heard a lot of people fumbling and stumbling and blowing their houses down trying to compare and or judge Mario Odyssey based on Breath of the Wild. Most of this sort of discussion is really unfair. You can't compare most of their content because they're entirely different games from entirely different genres. There is one thing that they both do in a similar sort of manner though that I think they can be compared for, and by gracious does Mario look like crap when you do. Both games handle levels and rewards pretty similarly. In Zelda, you have this huge, vast open world to explore, and you can complete quests in it and run around freely, bumping into new things to do in every nook and cranny. Some of the things you do will permanently change the environment for the rest of the game, like, for example, such as the Water Temple, where completing it stops the constant rainy weather. In Mario Odyssey, it's the same sort of deal. Each kingdom is a big world you can explore and complete challenges in to get the moons. And sometimes, based on story events, you'll effect permanent change in them as you progress. Oh wait, you want footage of that on screen? Oof, sorry, that's not gonna happen. I already beat all the story stuff and I really don't want to restart this game. So take my word for it, environments change as you complete main moons throughout the kingdom. Actually, here, you can see how worlds change in the end game. There are more people around, flying taxis all over the place. Peach shows up sometimes, there's these big Lego blocks sitting around. It's cool stuff. In Breath of the Wild, outside of the open world and the few main dungeons, you have shrines. Hidden levels, mostly disconnected from the overworld, that each house a single puzzle or set of puzzles. Basically, each one is a little puzzle room for you to figure out. You have at your disposal all of the same tools and techniques as you do in the open world. But in these rooms, the game's systems will be introduced to you in ways you wouldn't expect to see them naturally. Similarly, in Mario, you have hidden stages, often found on the opposite ends of warp pipes or behind these doors denoted with a funky hat. These stages each offer a challenge focused on a set of your abilities that the outside world of the kingdom is unable to test so well. I mean, the main worlds do need to have challenges within them, but they also need to be physically laid out logically and be easily traversable. Fitting an area like this just out in the middle of a field doesn't make sense. That's why often these hidden stages are unstyled. They look like VR missions or something. They're not about anything more than pure mechanical challenge. Can you do this very hard thing? Go. And this is great. The best, most challenging, interesting, and well-designed levels in the game are inarguably these. These weird and wacky areas are where the game can test you on things that the open world can't, experiment with new ideas, and overall just straight up flex on you. And who doesn't want to be flexed on by a game? By a platforming game? Again, similar to Zelda's shrines. The issue, though, has nothing to do with the design of the levels themselves and has to do with their rewards. Completing these secret stages gets you a moon. Some of them have 2 moons. One will be hidden somewhere, only a keen-eyed player will see, and the other will always be at the end of it. So 1 moon guaranteed and 1 optional. That seems like a fair reward until you compare that to the moon challenges in World. Some moons you straight up just walk to. Others, too many, you tediously hop on over to. Some, you just pick up a seed and walk across half the desert to plant a flower and come back later to collect. Footage not included, I'm not going to do it again. It sucks that the reward at the end of a super challenging and fun secret puzzle stage is the same as that for just being at the right place at the right time. So how did it work in Zelda? Well, the shrines didn't offer the same sort of rewards you could get in World. For completing a shrine puzzle, you'd be given a spirit orb, a really valuable item that could be used to increase your total health and stamina. Despite there being 120 of these spirit orbs in the game, not a single one could be acquired without entering a shrine stage and solving some sort of challenging level. And if you wanted to increase your health and stamina without them, well, tough luck, there was no other way. So each of the puzzle shrines offered a focused challenge, and there was no substitute for them, no alternate way to get the special unique reward that they offered. Not to mention that just like Mario, each one also had at least 1 secondary minor reward in a chest hidden somewhere in the level, often either a special weapon or a useful material. In Mario, there is an alternate way to get moons. Almost every world moon is easier than the special stage moons, and if you're a real scrub, you can just straight up buy moons. What I'm saying is, imagine if you completed a shrine in Zelda, and instead of a special item, you got 20 bundles of wood and a couple of food items. Things that you could have just gotten by downing trees and collecting food in the wild. If that were your reward for a tough level, you wouldn't do the tough levels. It would make them feel like trash. That's what I'm saying Mario is doing the equivalent of. Now, one thing that could have saved it was the capture and control system with Mario's hat. Some world moons require you to take control of an enemy and use their unique ability to do something that will eventually score you a moon. This is pretty cool because what it kind of does is it makes small, special challenge areas within the main kingdom for each of the special character types that you can take over with your hat, which would be really cool and unique if it weren't for the fact that many of the special stages also rely on the capture feature. I'm going out on a limb here, feel free to disagree with me, but I think I would have felt much better about getting the same rewards within and outside of special stages if outside I were able to control enemies and within I had no access to controllable dudes. If all of the special stages were pure platforming with the cap as your only tool, much like the secret stages in Sunshine. Granted, there are a few like that, but they're a very small minority. This would have made a distinction between world moons and secret moons. It would have made it clear that these secret stages are optional, and your reward for finishing them is just proving to yourself that you could do it. I mean, whoever beat the secret stages in Sunshine because they wanted a star? You did it because you wanted to prove to yourself that you could best it. Also, those stages and the ones like it in Odyssey are super fun. Now, I'm not saying that the special stages with special characters are all bad. I mean, some definitely are, but most are really good. What I wish, though, is that somehow each of those stages was fit and incorporated into the kingdom itself. I think focusing the secret stages on Mario and Mario alone would have made me not feel as crap after doing them. I mean, what am I supposed to feel after doing this special cheese stage? Cool, I get it, a whole level dedicated to cutting the cheese. But for what? I can only do this as a little turtle dude. Why isn't this just a part of the food kingdom? Like, why isn't there just a part of the mountain that's just covered in this block of cheese that I have to carve a path through to get to the top? Why does this need to be its own little secret room? What's really sad is how some special characters, like the sunglasses dude, have their most interesting moments not in the overworld they belong to, but in special stages that make the best use of their abilities. It's just like, that feels like the wrong approach to me, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my genes. Overall, I don't know. I felt playing through Mario that there was a lot of polish missing from it. In some places it felt like the absolute minimum viable thought was put into anything from stages to aesthetics to interfaces. Like this bird boss here. What the heck? It looks easy, you know, just dodging the junk he's throwing at you, but as soon as he starts puking and you have to ride up the puke to get a hit on him, it goes to crap. I don't know what perspective I need for this. I kept trying to use my shadow to tell where I was, but without good control over the camera while moving and jumping, it's hard to tell where the heck you even are. The last phase where his puke turns into separate globs and you need to hop between, it's not that it's hard or anything, it's actually legitimately unfair and broken. No camera angle seems to help. You can't land on the edges of the puke globs. Sometimes you just pass through the geometry and you can't tell where you are. It just feels and looks like crap. How did this make it into a Mario game? Or like the gliding dinosaur dude you can take over. You use him in a couple of places to fly out to far away and otherwise inaccessible platforms where moons are. Except here's the joke. The dude is always found at the top of a really high place right next to a freaking checkpoint you can warp to. So you want to glide to that faraway thing over there? Well, just warp to the top, take the dude, fly over, and if you mess up, you can just warp back and try again. This dude isn't even an enemy or anything. He just sits there waiting for you to possess his body like it's nothing. By doing crap like this, they basically eliminate the challenge of getting those faraway moons. Think about it. What's the challenge? What is the game testing you on? You literally just take this dude without resistance, jump off and fly, no punishment for failure even. I mean, what if this dude was an enemy? You go up to this tall place and you need to throw your hat at him before he attacks you and he like knocks you off the very tall place that you just spent all this time climbing to. He's like a reward for getting to this thing, and there's a risk involved. That makes it more challenging, that makes it more fun, that makes it more interesting as a game. What if instead you kept him friendly, but you find him at the bottom of the really tall place, and the idea is that you have to get him to the top, except what's cool is that he doesn't have any offensive actions, so you have to make the most of his gliding ability to dodge enemies as you make it to the top of this thing, at which point then you can use him. You completed a challenge, here's your reward. You getting to fly off is kind of like a victory lap of sorts. Or what if he's found at the top, he's friendly, but you have to like appease him or something? You know, he's got glasses, it's clear that he's supposed to be like intelligent or something. What if he asked you for like a special type of fruit or something and you had to deliver it to him and then you could take him over? The way it is, instead, the game just gives you the answer to a puzzle. There's no challenge at all here. The narrative of these challenges goes, I find the gliding dinosaur dude, I look for a distant moon, I fly there as him, I'm done. I'm saying add a twist or add a level to this narrative. You've already given me a reason to want him, well, give me a reason to be afraid of him or to not want him. But no, instead we're left with this half-ass challenge you can see reset. You can see him poof back into existence when you get to the top. Just him popping right back. That makes him less like a flying power-up and more like a bungee cord. And speaking of dinosaurs, that T-Rex they hyped in all the adverts for the game, the one that appears on the box and everything, like some sort of icon, it suffers the same exact fate. You'd think controlling an enemy like this would be tough. My first time playing, I thought I'd need to sneak up on him like those sleeping piranha plants in Mario 64, but all it takes is a little bit of noise making to realize this dinosaur doesn't have any, and I mean any, behavior outside of you controlling it. It doesn't wake up and attack you or anything. You can jump all over it, you can pound it in the face, it just chills there until you decide to take control of it. Even when you drop it, it just stays there in a daze for you to either take it again or let it poof away and respawn at the hill it came from. Sure, it might look and sound like a dinosaur, but you know what this really is? You know what this is behaviorally equivalent to? It's just this. Or better yet, this. And both of these are really old. This dinosaur is absolute, irrefutable garbage, and we all know it. It's probably one of the greatest examples of marketing abusing fans' expectations in gaming over the past year. When I realized the true scope of this stupid thing, it was like a gut punch. It was like pure cringe, like, oh, really? That's it? It was that bad? And speaking of absolute irrefutable garbage, this mushroom in particular, among all others, is a devil creature. I'm not just talking about how accidentally talking to her kind of ruins the post-game by revealing all of the moon hints to you immediately. I'm talking about how she's the one that dishes out achievement moons, and even though you get dozens at a time, she can only present them to you individually, forcing you to spend minutes at a time pressing A repeatedly just to collect moons you've technically already earned. It's ridiculous that they wouldn't bother to build her in such a way that she could just drop all of your achievement moons on you at once. And you know what, just to make sure that you understand the gravity of this issue, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to continue to play uninterrupted the clip of me receiving all of the moons from her the first time I did, and I realized it was going to take forever. And I'm just going to let that play out. I'm going to put a timestamp for you so you can skip it, but I just want to make sure you understand that, you know, whether you watch it all the way through or you click that timestamp, by the end of this segment I'm doing here, you will understand that it's bad, and you will understand exactly why it is bad. Because I think that's really important for you to get, because this Mario Odyssey, this is the end game of Mario, it just kind of fades off. And also, I don't care enough about the overall quality of my videos to justify not doing this, because I had the idea and I said, I'm gonna do it. So, here it is. Enjoy. this is the sort of crap that'll certainly have you shaking your controller at the screen. And speaking of shaking your controller at the screen, the motion controls, what the heck? Coming out of Zelda and Splatoon where they were okay hand emoji, kissing lips emoji, shaking hand emoji, this is trash. Why are they required for nonsense garbage? Why do I need to shake the controller up or down to throw the hat up or down? Why does the game ask you to do this funky twist thing to get the hat to spin around you? I can never seem to get it to work. I have to actually spin my stupid controller to get it working. It took me forever to realize that the other way to do this was to do the ballerina spin and then do the hat throw, which sucks because it means that the digital input for this isn't something you can do just spur of the moment while moving about. Here's a cool touch that pisses me off that you might have missed. If you play with the manettes separate, Mario will throw his hat with the hand corresponding to the one that you shook. And you can do these funky hat tilts and give direction to the homing move. This was one of the first things I noticed in the game, and my first thought was, okay, how do I do this with just the controller though? And here's the thing, you can't. Now, it's not like it matters at all. The tilt and the hand thrown with have no effect on the hat attack. It's just a fun little detail, I guess, but it pisses me off that playing the way I feel most comfortable with the attached controller, well, now these cool stylistic details become unavailable to me. And what bugs me even more, because in some cases like the customized motion-controlled hat throws, the impact is purely aesthetic and optional, it's extra polish. But in other cases, you're actually forced to use motion. You want to climb a beanstalk, not like the slowest dude ever? Well, you gotta shake your controller. Want to have an offensive move as a fish? Well, you gotta shake your controller. Some of the controllable enemies just have shaking make them do something the Y, aka attack button, will already do, but faster, like dash faster, attack faster. But others map whole different abilities to shaking, which I didn't even know till post-game. I never bothered to read these messages, I saw the buttons and that's it. I straight thought the fish couldn't attack. I thought the idea was that it was a trade-off. Possessing one allowed you unlimited breath underwater, but no offense. So when you ran into these spooky seaweed dudes, you'd have to either try to navigate around them as the fish, or risk dropping the fish to use Mario's attack and rushing before you ran out of air. But no, I just didn't realize I was forced to shake a freaking controller, even though there are like a million unused buttons on this thing. So this is the controller, and these are the only buttons that do anything. There's B, which is for jumping, Y, which is for throwing the hat, attacking, and there's R2 over here, which makes you crouch. And then what happens is all of the other buttons mimic the behavior of another one. So you want to crouch, you can also crouch with this. You want to attack, you can also attack, I think, with this. You want to jump, you can jump with A. Everything else repeats some input that another button already does. And I get why that is. I get it, because the whole game technically needed to be playable on half of this controller for the, oh my god, I can't get this out, for the multiplayer mode. Where do I put this? There. How's that work? For the multiplayer mode, two players both need to have full control over a character moving around in a 3D space with one of these. A thing with one joystick, 4 face buttons, and 1 duck crouch button. That's why. I get it. So while the controller makes concessions in the name of multiplayer usability and decides to commit the redundancy to over half its buttons, the single-player experience is what's at stake. None of the levels seem to be designed with multiplayer in mind at all. So like, woohoo, good job, your controller setup made the game crap for me to play alone, but the incredibly high reliance on quick and precise camera positioning in all the levels' designs made it impossible to play properly without the one control they didn't manage to squeeze onto both the single Joy-Cons, which was the camera. So what you're left with are levels that are practically impossible to play in multiplayer, as Mario without control over your camera, and a single-player controller configuration with 12 hardware buttons but only 3 types of input, forcing neighboring buttons to behave as unnecessary duplicates of each other. The first time I tried actually legitimately playing multiplayer was this part here on Planet Endor, and I failed twice before deciding to switch back to single player just for this little block over here. It was straight a pain to do without the camera. The camera's motion is how you build your depth perception. It's a really crucial thing to have while you're playing a 3D platformer. Playing later on the stream that ended up actually being 2 streams because of a false fire alarm featuring ya boy, the one, the only, the Plastidip King, Starvator from youtube.com/Starvator, we realized it was even worse. Fighting this boss using the Goomba approach was probably one of the most uncomfortable things ever, both like as a challenge and like for my hands. Me trying to move around and stack Goombas while he tried to anticipate my movements and control the camera it just didn't work. Look, Mario Odyssey isn't a bad game. There are definitely some things to enjoy about it. There are definitely some moments I had that were like, aha moments whenever I discovered a new path, a new way to get somewhere I didn't know I could go, a new way to jump off a wall or something that I didn't know I could do, or a new way to fight an enemy, like the onion thing I discovered with my friend. That felt great. That's where the game shines, in its level design, which in many places seem to be hyper-considerate of Mario's new abilities, but also not so defensive that it doesn't respond appropriately if you do something it doesn't expect. There are a few moments, though, where the game seems to genuinely not have anticipated your ability to approach an obstacle a certain way. As far as the levels go, the best parts are the secret levels. This is where the game can throw away any semblance of cohesive world structure and just say, hey, look at this stuff, you're gonna have to run and jump on it until you get to the end, good luck. And with the inclusion of the 2D sections spacing out some of these levels, as well as the second moon hidden in each, these are great. But here's the deal. Mario 3D World and Land were literally just the sorts of levels you see here, just pure creativity, challenge, puzzle solving embedded into the navigation. The sorts of levels that don't need full control over a camera, but can be played with only a provided set of possible view angles. Now, I didn't play 3D World myself, but I played 3D Land on the 3DS system all the way through. Being on the 3DS, I can't really capture footage of it. So here I'm stealing footage of 3D World on the Wii U from Matt, aka MML's Commentaries' 3D Mario Games video titled 3D Mario Games, Critique and Comparison. But that's not the only reason I'm straight using and abusing this poor dude right now. In his video, he highlights a set of issues with 3D Mario and discusses how they're resolved in 3D World. One of the points he brings up in this piece, and something I totally agree with, is that Mario's level design works best when it's linear, when you start in one place and have to end up in another, not when you're running all over the place doing all sorts of different things at the same time. I mean, this is where Mario started. If you've ever played a 2D Mario, you know what's up. Mario isn't Zelda, it isn't Metroid either. It's about point A to point B with tons of interesting obstacles to learn about and deal with on your way. You can't really compare Mario 64 to any 2D Marios because the level and mission structure are completely different. Same reason you can't really compare Odyssey, other than the secret hidden levels, of course. But 3D World, you can. Whatever cool ideas Odyssey pulls out, they're nothing compared to what 3D World can afford to do. It has level after level to hone its player skills and demand more of them as they progress. Odyssey uses its hidden stages as breaks from the real game, the open world gameplay of wandering around looking for loose moons. Odyssey also can't assume anything of its players because now, without any semblance of a mission list, the game has no idea once you drop into a kingdom how experienced you are. You can walk down a path for the first time and it can either be your first visit to a kingdom or a post-game stroll looking for bonus moons, which, might I reiterate, is total garbage. Half the endgame is just straight redoing open-world platforming you've already done, but finding new stuff, not that you missed, but that wasn't there the first time you visited it. And heck, holy cow, I almost forgot, each and every single one of 3D World's levels is designed to be playable by up to 4 players at a time with no issues, and with a single camera angle. Matt expressed some concern towards the end of his video, which he uploaded prior to the release of Odyssey, having to do with the old direction the next 3D Mario seemed to be going in. The fact that we've gathered here today, ladies and gentlemen, and the fact that I'm not the only person I've heard use literally the exact phrase, "I am done with Mario Odyssey" anymore, shows that he certainly had one good heck of a reason to be worried.
It is incredibly disappointing that Nintendo chose to revert back to the structure and level design that has consistently plagued 3D Mario titles with the next entry. Finally, after all this time, we return to the upcoming Super Mario Odyssey, a game which a number of people are hailing as a return to form, while I regard it as an abandonment of what Mario stands for right after Nintendo finally figured it out.
Look, now more than ever, it's hard to stand out as a single-player title in a market that demands multiplayer. I feel like folks in the criticism scene are a bit too quick to judge companies for not investing in single-player games when, like, more often than not, they're a bad investment. Well, maybe not bad, but multiplayer is a much better way to make the most out of your costs. I mean, there are straight-up people who are disinterested in single-player experiences. They exclusively play games competitively and socially, like my friend Tyler that we streamed with. So games like this have to try really, really hard. They have to offer an experience you can uniquely have alone. Zelda did this by building a breadth of interactions into its systems, offering a sandbox environment to explore and conquer. Zelda is the sort of game that it doesn't really feel like you can finish. I'm still playing it, and the DLC they offer for it is actually worth the value. Odyssey, on the other hand, look, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Maybe I'm trying to say that there are better games to play on the Switch right now than Mario. Both Zelda and freaking Splatoon are more fun. To be honest, I think that both Splatoon 2's single player and Salmon Run modes are each more interesting and fun than all of Mario Odyssey. I've sunk in more time into each of those on their own than I have with Mario. Maybe I'm saying I kind of wish I bought Doom on the Switch rather than Mario. That would have been really cool portable. Maybe I'm saying I wish I played 3D World, which, by the way, is super cheap now. You know what? Maybe I'll order it. No, you know what I think I'm saying? I'm saying what Odyssey has in depth, it lacks in breadth. That the best parts of its best levels are a subset of those in 3D World. You know what? 3D World was 4-player couch multiplayer, right? But nobody played it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that if they re-released 3D World on the Switch with a 4-player online mode allowing you to play with friends, that people would very soon forget about Odyssey. This video is long enough, and I don't even know what the point of it is anymore. Let's talk about Splatoon for a minute here. Splatoon is really good. Look, here's the deal. Thanks for watching. That wasn't water. By the time this video comes out, it's probably Christmas. Season's greetings to everyone. Have a happy new year, a happy life, and happy days. And most of all, a happy mom. Goodbye.
You know, in the meantime, I'll just go and sit down, pick up controller, play a different 3D platformer.
Hello and welcome to the Endscreen. How's it going, everybody? You can't even see my face, just a black hole. So, first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Clearly, you've all noticed a change in this setup. It's that I have the Wii Fit balance board with me by my side. Probably never seen this before. It's really going to increase the video. Also, I made an investment recently. I purchased a microphone. I was about to say new microphone, but to be honest, I didn't even have a microphone before. I had 3 holes on a camera that somehow was an ear. What do I have to talk about on my end screen? Oh yeah, I have some points. Oh yeah, first and foremost, thank you to my boy Starvator, aka Tyler, aka Starvator, who came and filmed. Well, he came over. Okay, so here's the deal. Tyler wanted to see me. We hadn't seen each other in a while. Very good friends. Known each other. Friends since high school. Me and this guy. I remember actually the first time I had him in a gym class in my first year of high school. Cool guy. Very cool guy. So we had a good time. So he wanted to come, and we've worked on a lot of things together, both professionally and academically. Tyler wanted to chill, hang out, and I told him, listen, I'm trying to do this video and I just need to record footage. And then I thought, and I said, you know what? I haven't really played the multiplayer mode that much. Maybe we could just play multiplayer, and it would be cool as if I had a lot of multiplayer footage in this video, because that's not something a lot of people have in their Mario videos. I figured it'd be cool. And Tyler's like, yeah dude, let's do it. So I cooked some rice, we played some games, and we streamed it, and then there was a false fire alarm. And then we continued. Anyways, there was a good stream of tweets and streams. It was a good time. So anyway, shout out to him. You can watch his YouTube channel. which is youtube.com/Starvator. Am I in any of his videos? Actually, I'm in some of his videos, which is funny, like high school days and university and basically all my life is documented on his channel. You should go check it out. Also, his life is documented on his channel. If you're into changing the color of the icon on your car, you will definitely like his content. Did I talk about this camera already? This microphone? Yeah, I think I did. So anyways, it's nice. It's a good one. It's probably annoying that I'm moving it all over, and I bet you can't even hear anything I'm saying right now. It's probably just... Or maybe you can. I don't know what's worse, my voice or whatever static you might be hearing right now. It's pretty good. I'm happy with it. It was a good investment. Although it is still kind of weird talking so loudly in my place. I know that, as you may have noticed in the video, you probably have observed that at the beginning of the video, I was a little whisper boy, and by the end of the video, I got a little bit fun. And that's a combination of me just getting a little bit more comfortable talking this loud in my apartment alone, and also that wasn't water. So let's just leave it at that. I don't know what this is. All I noticed is that when I blow on the microphone, it's really loud, but then I put this and I go nothing. Okay, next order of business, and this is very, very important, and it's also a secret. Don't tell anybody. So hopefully by this point there are no SpongeBob people watching this video. I kind of made a technical video about Mario, so I figured anybody who's come to my channel because of all the SpongeBob shenanigans is probably gone by this point. And I also know recently, shout out to your boy Hamish Black, got a mention in today's video. Good man this guy is. He shared my video. I didn't even realize what he had done for like a while. I was just trying to understand, but I don't think he realizes really how much of an impact that had on me. Like, I got like 100 subscribers in a day from that, and like that's like 100 people who like care about real videos, real discussion of games, not SpongeBob people. Because, you know, maybe if you're one of my watchers who's a serious watcher, you understand, you know, the sort of stuff I do, but maybe you don't understand the crap I've been involved in with the SpongeBob junk. The fact that like the overwhelming majority of my audience are SpongeBob people who really just don't care about the stuff I care about, right? They come here for the jokes and they leave for everything else, which is why my SpongeBob videos have a lot of attention and all my other videos don't, or none of my other videos do is a better way to say that. So anyways, planning to have them gone from this video. Originally I made a Discord server a while ago. This was a fun time for a while. It turned out to be a mistake in the long run because a lot of these SpongeBob people showed up. So my plan is to make a new Discord server and not publicize it in anything else but the video. So there's going to be no URL in the description. There's going to be no URL posted on Twitter or anything. The only URL is going to be the one that is going to be appearing on screen right here. I'm sorry, you can't just click it. You're going to have to type it in yourself if you want to join this Discord server. This is the LambHoot Part 2 Discord server, and I'm never going to make it public. This will be a link. I mean, obviously it could go wrong, but I figure the thing about SpongeBob people is you really have to like serve them exactly what they want on a silver platter. Otherwise they're not going to look for it. So I figure I'll avoid a lot of people coming. And no offense to anybody who like sees this later and like sees that I didn't invite them. It's not about not inviting them. It's about I only want people who pay attention, right? Like I had a conversation last time I was even active on the Discord server, and the reason I'm probably not going to be ever on the old Discord server anymore. I was trying to do a planning poker session, and I was talking to some guy who was asking me questions about videos, and then he just straight up told me, like, he was like, "Oh, that's cool. By the way, I don't even watch your videos anymore. They're boring." And the fact that the guy had the guts to just like say that to my face, it's just kind of bugging me. And it's like, you know what? I don't want people in here who don't watch my stuff. If you want to talk to me about my stuff, and we'll talk about other things too. But you know, the idea is that you're here for a reason. I brought you here, not a friend invited you to this server and you're just goofing around, or you know, you want to spread your Simpsons garbage, right? So make a new server. Link is in here. Please don't spread it around too much, guys, but I know only the most dedicated people will be in this. It'll be a very good time. Yeah, now I'm tired. Why am I tired? My eyes are red. Let me give you a hint. That wasn't water. Thank you for watching, everybody. My name has been King K, and I certainly hope you have a good Christmas day today.